Good morning, everyone. Hey, Jan. Happy Sunday indeed. I know, surprise weekend stream. Good luck with the review. Thank you so much. We have our special guest here with us today, the Toucher.
Hello.
And we are going to review all 145 new Perils and Paradise cards. Very excited. As you see on the left side of the screen here, there are some arrows in this diagram. There are tourist classes for this expansion, and we'll explain what that means after we go through some of the cards. But if you ever want to know which class is touring, which location class, you can look at the diagram on the left-hand side. That's our little cheat sheet.
I love that you have that up there because I'm going to use that as my cheat sheet as well.
Good. I figured it would help a lot of us because everyone is touring a different class. Some of them kind of make sense, and then some of them are less connected as far as class dynamics. So some of them more intuitive, some of them less intuitive. And just for those people who are trying to make the ultra value deck, you cannot tour more than one class. So for example, if you're a Paladin tourist touring Rogue, you can't also include Warlock cards. You can only tour one location.
Could you imagine if you could tour more than one class? Oh, that would get crazy fast.
That would just be zooey. What's a class? Such an esoteric
There are no
question.
classes.
Exactly. All right. So jumping right in, let's start with Druid. Do you want to read every other card and then we'll talk about him?
Sure, yeah.
All right. So our first card is Sleep Under the Stars, 7 mana, arcane spell. Choose thrice. Draw 2 cards, gain 5 armor, refresh 3 mana crystals.
This one, I'm excited to try this out. It could go either way for me. It could either be a lot of value, or it could be 7 mana do nothing. It's really hard for me to place this one right off the bat, but I definitely want to give it a try.
It definitely feels like it could be good early or late, depending on how you play it, as long as you have enough ramp, which we will see there is more ramp support in this set.
Yeah, ramp is going to be very important for Druid, I think, in this set. Okay, next card up, we have Bouldering Buddy. It's a 7 mana rush taunt, 6 attack, 7 health. The kicker for this one, though, is it only costs 1 mana if you have at least 10 mana crystals. So again, ramp is going to be very important for Druid. This one, I think, would be an auto-include in most decks, just simply because you ramp quickly, get up to 10, and all of a sudden this is a 1 mana 6/7.
Yes, and we'll see there are, just like the spell that we just saw, there are ramp cards that ramp more than 1 mana at a time. So it's a much faster ramp than we're used to seeing for Druid. New Heights, 3 mana. Increase your maximum mana by 3 and gain an empty mana crystal.
So Wild Growth is no longer a card, I guess.
Yeah. When people talk about mana cheat over time, like compare this with Wild Growth, and this is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. So I think this replaces the Malfurion's Gift in standard or in most decks. It's a much better card. This is a 5-star card. And keep in mind too, with the little graph on the left-hand side of the screen, this can be accessed by Warrior. So now Warrior has ramp.
Yeah. Very good for Control Warrior. Very scary for anyone who's not playing Control Warrior.
Yeah. Amazing card. 5 out of 5.
Mista Vista, 5 mana, 5/5, Mage Tourist. So this card lets you play cards from Mage class. Battlecry in 3 turns. Replay every spell you've cast between now and then.
I'm very excited about this card. You basically get like a do-over for 3 turns, any spell you cast. So for example, if you cast New Heights in the 3 turns after Mista Vista, then you get an extra 3 mana crystals. So all of a sudden, 10 mana is no longer a thing. You're now at 16 mana, so you can spend 16 mana a turn. Basically, a new form of Wild Heart Guff, the hero card from a couple of years ago.
It's OP Guff. And notice
Yeah.
it's Battle Cry. So this replaying every spell you cast between now and then is not dependent on this minion staying alive.
Yeah, just got to play it. The Battle Cry is activated, and then you have 3 turns to spend whatever amount of mana you want on whatever cards you want, and then after 3 turns, you get to replay them all over again.
Kind of nuts if you take a look at Mista Vista and Sleep Under the Stars, where you choose thrice. If you have a lot of mana and you can play this card more than once, this is only epic. So you can play this twice and get it back twice. That's a lot of value.
So much value. Okay, we got Tortollan Traveler. 3 mana, 1/5 taunt, death rattle, draw another taunt minion, reduce its cost by 2. So I know we're going to get down to Warrior in a bit, but Warrior has a lot of taunt support this this set. So I think this card will fit very well into a Warrior deck more so than a Druid deck. If that, it's crazy to say that out loud, but I think that's actually going to be a thing.
Yeah, this makes Taunt Warrior a lot more feasible. And if you look at the stats on this, it's a 3 mana 1/5. Remember, we're talking about cards from previous sets. Remember Silverback Patriarch? It was a 3 mana 1/4, do nothing. So this is also reducing the cost of another card by 2, and it has more health.
Well, there's also that 3 mana 1/5 Naga taunt that drew a card, but that card didn't actually reduce the cost of the card by 2. So this is mana cheap. It's power creep on that one too. And that was only a couple sets ago.
Yeah, this is double power creep.
City. Yeah.
So it may look kind of meh because of its stats, but it's actually very good value compared to other similar cards from previous sets.
Well, that Naga taunt 1/5 that saw a lot of play, and this is an even better version of that. So I think this is going to see play.
Definitely. I agree with you. I think it'll see a lot of play in Warrior, not necessarily in Druid, but it is so good that it might see play in Druid as well. Just Taunt Warrior is more, it's more true to the Warrior class because it's a stall deck where you're putting a lot of obstacles in the way and trying to control the pace of the game. I think Druid is more of a ramp and attack, but we'll see. Hydration Station, 8 mana, res your 3 highest cost taunt minions.
I'm very excited about this. I think this is going to see a lot of play simply because Ziliax sees a lot of play. Could you imagine playing your Unkilliax, the elusive reborn one, and then having that die, having the reborn die, and then all of a sudden you cast this 8 mana spell and you get 2 Unkilliaxes coming back on the board. That is a lot of value right there, and
very difficult to remove.
Yeah, so like right now, Dr. Boom sees play in Warrior. I think this sees play in Druid simply because of that fact.
Trail Mix, 2 mana nature spell, gain 2 mana crystals next turn only.
So I love the idea behind this card. I think it's a way to cheat out something big a little quick. I think this is going to see play in a lot of decks because you'll see, like, for example, instead of playing a card on turn 6, you play this on turn 3, and then the following turn 4, you have 6 mana. You get to cheat out a 6 mana card. I think this is mana cheat good.
Well, and you could also put Trail Mix on 4, and then cheat out Sleep Under the Stars on 5, which is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, this is going to be included in a lot of decks. Dozing Dragon, dormant for 2 turns. While dormant, summon a 3/5 dragon with taunt at the end of your turn. This reminds me, do you remember that card from a couple of years ago? It was a Shaman card where at the end of your turn it summoned, I think it was like a 3/4 stag or something like that.
Oh, uh-huh.
This reminds me of that, and that saw a lot of play. So combining this with the previous card, Trail Mix, you play Trail Mix on 2, all of a sudden you play this Dozing Dragon on turn 3, you get a 3/5 taunt on turn 3, a 3/5 taunt on turn 4, and then this card becomes undormant on turn 5. So this, I think this would be a lot of value in the early game. I think this will be a pretty good card. Druid has a lot of good cards this set. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's interesting using the dormancy period to actually do something. We saw that, I think, this last set with Magtheridon, was it? That has an effect while it's dormant. So it's interesting seeing this for another class. Cruise Captain Laura, 7 mana, 4/5, legendary. Battlecry, summon 2 random locations.
I think this is the only not good card the Druid has this set, because this is basically 7 mana. Let's see what happens. That's spending a lot of mana on potentially not much value. I really don't see this seeing play in standard.
And it's interesting because it seems more like a rogue mechanic. It doesn't feel very druidy to me.
Yeah, it even kind of looks like a rogue card with the pirate theme going.
And Hiking Trail, our druid location. Discover a taunt minion after you gain armor. Reopen this.
This is a good card, but I don't actually see it making the cut in a lot of decks for some reason. I don't know. I just there's so much other good stuff going on. I don't see the value in spending 3 mana on this with the other things that can be done this set.
The only argument I can see for this is, again, not druid but warrior, because it does have 3 durability, and if you're playing taunt warrior and you're playing a Reno deck and you have a couple slots to fill, this could easily fit into there just for generating some more minions, because it's giving you 3 minions in 1 card slot.
Actually, yeah, it probably fits better into warrior than it does druid.
Speaking of warrior, warrior's first spell, Cup o' Muscle. 1 mana, give a minion in your hand +2/+1, 3 drinks left.
So this this drink mechanic is a new mechanic that they brought in for this set. So the way the drinks work is you cast the spell, and then it sort of rejoins your hand, almost like a twin sight like used to do for Demon Hunter. So you get three tasks or 3 charges of it, or the bananas for Hunter. This is a decent card. I like it. I think it brings some value. It's very cheap and you can use it multiple times. There's a lot of value there. I think it will see some play in Warrior.
And it definitely is on theme for Warrior, right? Because it gives more attack than it gives health, which is very Warrior-y.
Yeah, and if we go back to the little chart that Bridget has on the left-hand side of the screen, this actually can be accessed by Hunter, so it probably replaces Bunch of Bananas as a card in Hunter decks.
Right, since it gives 2/1 instead of 1/1, that is significantly better. Char, 4 mana, fire spell, deals 7 damage to a minion. Give a minion in your hand stats equal to the excess damage. So it's interesting because it's basically like overkill, but for a spell.
Yeah, I really don't see this seeing play. Warrior has a lot of removal already as a class. This one seems kind of expensive and clunky. Comparing it to the flame card that deals 5 and then deals another 5 when you forge it, I think that's a much better version, and it's only 3 mana compared to 4 for this. So I don't see this one slotting into warrior decks.
The only argument I could see for this is if you're planning on playing a charge minion and that's the only minion in your hand, and you know that that's the one that's going to get buffed as like a end game secondary or tertiary win con.
So up next we have Line Cook. This is a tradable card, 3 mana, 2/4 taunt. When you draw this, you get a copy of it. This has a lot of value. It's tradable, which also allows you to cycle your deck. And honestly, I love to have this in my hand, the ability to draw, because then you get like basically a free draw 1 from the warrior class, and then when you redraw it again, you get a couple copies of it instead. So then you get to trade away one, keep the other, play the other, depending on whatever you want to do. There's a lot of flexibility with this card. I think it'll see play.
I agree. It has decent stats for 3 mana, and just having that 1 mana tradable is great for cycling something out of your hand, looking for something that's still in your deck. And the fact that you get a copy is just a bonus. Just have to think about hand management if you're going to cycle it, and make sure that you have enough cards left in your deck that the probability of card busting yourself is low. I mean, you'd be card busting a card that didn't start in your deck anyway, so it's not a huge loss. But yeah, if you're going for the value, think about that. 3 mana, all you can eat. Draw 3 minions of different minion types.
So this is 3 mana, draw 3. This is a 5-star card in my opinion. This will be included in every warrior deck, and it'll probably see even more value, honestly, in the hunter class, because hunter tends to struggle with card draw, and this card will give hunter reload. So this is a great card for warrior. This is a fantastic card for hunter.
And if we look at the cost of it and what it does to you, it's kind of like a don't take any damage warlock card.
Yeah.
We're used to having to like trade health for something that's good. So the fact that you're not having to take damage to play this is already making it better than what we've seen in the past.
Arcane Intellect is crying in the corner right now.
It really is. 4 mana, 3/4 beast, undercooked calamari, kind of gross. Battlecry, destroy an enemy minion with attack less than or equal to this minion's.
I don't like this card at all. It's 4 mana, potentially destroy an opposing target, but the target can't be that threatening to begin with because it's got to have less than 3 attacks. So
unless you buff this, right?
Unless you buff it, yeah. But then you're spending mana on doing this, doing that. I think that I think it's a very clunky card that probably will not be included in the best decks.
For those of you who love puns, 9 mana, 6/9 monstrosity. Because it's cheese. Taunt. At the end of your turn, summon an elemental with stats equal to this minion's.
I love the flavor of this card. But the one downside that this card has is it's 9 mana, essentially do nothing. There's no rush attached to this. There's no reactionary value. It's just a kind of like a stat bomb, and I think that's a little slow for today's game. And right now there's another card in standard right now that summons I think it's a 6/7, and
yeah,
that one doesn't see play right now. So I think this is just a more expensive version of that. I don't see it slotting into the high quality decks.
It is very slow, very slow.
All right, next up we have Food Fights. Summon a 0/6 entree for your opponent. When it dies, summon a minion from your deck. I'm not too sure how I feel about this one. The only card I can think of that I can kind of relate it to is that Rogue Secret, where it kidnaps a minion and holds it in a 0/4 bag. And that was in...
which was also not my favorite, because it's so easy for your opponent to get it back.
Yeah, so like this one, it's like 3 mana, do nothing. It's conditional, it's clunky.
Well, and this means that you automatically can't reliably put Battlecry cards into your deck. If you're playing a Death Rattle deck, I guess this could be useful, but we don't have anything right now that's popular that's Death Rattle focused.
And so much value in the warrior class right now is surrounded around those battle cries. So this one, it could be almost screwing over your deck more than anything.
Yeah, I agree. Eight mana, 6/6 Draconic Delicacy. Rush Elusive can only take 1 damage at a time.
This card reminds me of, do you remember Moonfang from a few years ago?
Mm-hmm.
It was a 6/3 minion that could only take 1 damage at a time.
And that was already difficult to get rid of, and this has twice as much health.
Yeah, I think this card has a lot of value. I think it'll see play. It's got rush, so you're able to respond to a threat on the board instantly, and it's also elusive, so you can't target with spells. You basically have to deal with this with minions, and to deal with this with minions, you have to essentially kill your own minion while only doing 1 damage to this. So this card I think has a lot of value. I think it'll see play.
I'm kind of curious whether, if this becomes popular, if more people start including mind control tech in their decks.
Yeah, that's basically the
That's
only way
kind
to
of
get
the
rid of
only
it.
way that you can reliably get rid of this, besides
Yeah.
some kind of AoE that only does 1 damage at a time, which would be dependent on either other minions all having the same stats, or like doing damage in a very specific undirected order. So a lot of RNG involved, versus if your opponent has 4 minions on the board, you just take this and problem solved.
So next up we have Ham the Hungry. This is a
It's so
6 mana.
cute.
This will be the it'll win the championship for the most frustrating card of this expansion, in my opinion. This reminds me of Mutinous from a couple of years ago.
I love Mutinous. Sorry, everyone. It was a lot of fun to play.
But the only kicker is Mutinous was a battle cry. This one is every turn. So this is the kind of card that you have to address and deal with right away. Otherwise, it's going to keep eating minions from your own deck. This will be such a frustrating card, especially if you use the Trail Mix card from Druid, because Warrior has access to Druid. You play Trail Mix on turn 3, then the following turn on turn 4, you're allowed to you can get Ham the Hungry out on turn 4. And then once it eats a minion, it becomes a 5/5. So all of a sudden you have a 5/5 on turn 4. There's a lot of value. If you don't deal with it right away, it's going to eat another minion, get bigger. This is a great card.
Well, and the other main difference is Mutinous had a lower probability of eating something, right? Because the probability of someone having a minion in their hand early game is much lower than the probability of them having a minion in their deck. Obviously, that reverses once the game has gone on, you're closer to fatigue. But if you play this card early, you're almost guaranteed to get value out of it, unless someone's playing an all-spell deck.
Yeah, this is a great card. I love this card just for the flavor of it too.
And for the art, and for the card art. I mean, I think it's the most adorable card we've seen so far.
Yeah.
How can you be mad at it eating something from your deck when it's that fluffy?
It's adorable.
7 mana, 4/2 the Rye Cleaver, Battle Cry, and Death Rattle. Get a slice of bread. Get 2 to sandwich any minions in between.
Oh, I love the idea behind this card, because it's a type of mana cheat that I don't think we've ever really seen before. So the way this card works is when you equip it, it puts a slice of bread in your hand, and then when the weapon dies, its death rattle puts a second slice in your hand, and any minions that happen to be in between those 2 slices of bread get sandwiched and get summoned onto the board. So say you equip this and then wait a couple turns before you use the last charge of it. You could draw like a 9 mana card, the Draconic Delicacy at 8 mana, and anything that's in between those 2 slices of bread gets summoned. Again, this does not work well with any sort of battle cry minions, because then you don't get that battle cry. But if you have essentially a non-battle cry centered deck, then it's a way of cheating out a lot of big minions.
Like Monstrosity. Which we would not want to play, but if that got summoned by your weapon, would not be sad about it.
Absolutely. Again, the flavor behind Warrior this set is delicious.
Moving on to Hunter. First up, we have Chatty Macaw, 3 mana, 3/3 Beast Pirate, Battle Cry. Repeat the last spell you cast at an enemy at a random enemy if possible.
I like this card. I think there's going to be some interesting plays around this card. It reminds me of that one Shaman card from a couple sets ago where it
was it Shaman or Mage?
I think it was Shaman. It was the it was another bird card. I forget.
Yeah,
the name.
wasn't another macaw.
I think it was a macaw actually.
Yeah.
But that was a battle cry, and this is a spell, and so this is a way of doubling up. Like, say if you have like some sort of AOE spell for Hunter, then that'll be good. Although if we go back to the little graph on the side of the left hand side of the screen, this can be accessed by Priest as well, and Priest has a lot of AOE as a class. So if you include this macaw in with a priest deck, it's a way of doubling up on AoE damage, which I think has a lot of value in priest as well.
So I don't know if this question has been answered by the devs, but it says repeat the last spell you cast at an enemy. So it sounds like it's not just recasting any spell, it's recasting a directed spell that you physically directed at an enemy. So not like an RNG spell or an AoE spell, right? Because that's...
Oh, you're right.
Or would AoE still be considered at an enemy because it's like in the direction of the opposite side of the board?
No, I think you'd have to actually point a spell at an enemy, and which means
that's what I'm getting from it too. Like, I don't think this could be used with Time Warp in Wild, for example, because the Time Warp isn't targeting an enemy. It's just changing the turn mechanic. Does that seem like what this is reading to you as well?
Yeah, I misread it at first. And it also says enemy, not enemy minions, so this can go phase.
Yeah.
Right,
overall, yeah, I think this is a great card. It'll just be interesting to see those like niche interactions, how that plays out.
Yeah. Next up, we have Parrot's Sanctuary. Your next Battlecry minion costs 1 less. After you play a Battlecry minion, reopen this. So this can be used multiple times on a single turn if you have the mana for it. And it's also mana cheat. So you get this, you play this. It's essentially it costs 2 mana. It'll cheat you out 3 mana over the course of the uses because it has 3 charges. And one thing that we know about Hearthstone, mana cheat is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can set this up on the board on a really slow turn when you don't feel very threatened by your enemy's board, and then just pop off the chain the turn after. So seems like a good use of 2 mana. Furious Fowls, 6 mana spell. Choose an enemy, summon 2 3/2 birds with immune while attacking to attack it.
So this card is it's 6 mana, deals 6 damage. I think it's quite slow for, especially for Hunter. Hunter tries to get on board quick. I think this is a little too slow for most Hunter decks.
It's interesting comparing this card to, was it a Mage spell or a Druid spell? Remember the Kodo spell where it was like 10 mana and you summoned 3 or 4 like 3/5 Kodos that attacked random enemies, something like that. But those didn't have immune, and this costs 4. It's like summoning half as many minions, but it costs 4 less, and they have immunity, so they're surviving the attack. And you get to choose where they attack.
Yeah, actually, I'm changing my mind on this card because this, you could aim this at the opponent's face.
Yep.
6 mana, 6 damage face, and then you have 2 minions on board. So yeah, this has some value to it.
I think the immunity is what makes it better.
Yep.
5 mana Death Roll, which is actually what happens with crocodiles. Destroy an enemy minion, deal damage equal to its attack, randomly split among all enemies.
So this could potentially be a really big board clear. So say if your opponent has 1 really large minion on board and then a bunch of smaller ones, then you could kill the large minion and have its attack deal damage to the remainder, essentially clearing the entire side of the board, or go face.
Exactly.
It says,
this could be a sneaky OTK. It's punishing people who are playing 1 really large minion because you destroy the minion and then all of its damage goes face if they don't have anything else.
Yeah, I like this card. This will be a fun card. It'll be a frustrating card, but it'll be a fun card.
Sasquatch. 7 mana, 4/5. Battlecry. Repeat each card you played last turn.
So this says card. It doesn't say minion. Doesn't say spell. So whatever you played the turn previous to playing this, you get to go again essentially. It's a very powerful battle cry, depending on, especially in the late game. If you play this in the late game, this has it can have a lot of value to it.
Especially if you played like Crush, or if you played Mukla or something the previous turn that has like really good stats, and you already have the res card in your hand for the turn after. This could be pretty amazing.
Ranger Gilly. This is the Warrior Tourist card, so if you play this in your deck, you have access to the Warrior cards of this set. At the end of your turn, get a 2/3 Crocolisk. Death Rattle, give all minions in your hand +2/+3. That is a lot of stat buffs going to the minions in your hand when this thing dies. This will be an auto include in most decks simply because it's the tourist card and you can access warrior cards. But that stat bomb that it provides as well has a lot of value to it. I think basically all the tourist cards of this set are really good and are going to see play. Beyond the fact that they allow you to access the other a different class, they also have some really good stats on them as well.
Mm-hmm. This reminds me of the what is it right now? It's like a bird that Death Rattle gives all minions in your hand a buff. So very similar. More buffs for beasts in hand. Oh, but this is all minions in hand, because doesn't the bird only buff beasts in your hand?
Yeah, this is your whole hand, so
Yeah.
that's a lot of stat buffs.
Yeah. Catch of the Day, 1 mana, 3/3, rush, battle cry, summon a 2/1 worm for your opponent.
This card I think will be included in every hunter deck. It's a 1 mana 3/3 essentially. Even if you summon on turn 1 and attack into the opposing worm, you still have a 1 mana 3/1. If you have a way of cheating this out and essentially skipping the battle cry, it's even better. And we're going to find a card coming up here real quick that can possibly do that. So I think this is going to be a great card.
I remember when 1 manas were like 1/1s, or you got excited when it was a 1/2. So having the possibility of an undamaged 3/3 is very tempting.
Yeah, with rush too. So if you can cheat this out somehow and skip the battle cry, you have a 3/3 with rush.
Yeah. Pet Parrot, 2 mana, 1/1, battle cry, repeat the last 1-cost card you played.
So this is a way of cheating out that 1 mana 3/3 that we just talked about. So if you play the catch of the day and then the following turn you play this, you get another catch of the day on the board for essentially nothing. So on turn 1 you play catch of the day, turn 2 you play Pet Parrot, and then but all of a sudden after 2 turns you have a 3/3, a 1/1, and another 3/3 on the board. This has a lot of early game presence. I think that you will see a lot of play with this card.
I agree. Trusty Fishing Rod, 3 mana, 1/2. After your hero attacks, summon a 1-cost minion from your deck. So this is
card,
just another way of cheating out your fish.
Yep, it's a way of getting your fish out. It's a way of thinning your deck because it's kind of a card draw at the same time. So it's 3 mana, two uses of it. So you get to draw and play 2 cards. This is a pretty good card. I think this will also see play. This is such a great set overall. Like every card I've seen has I'm excited about. Perils in Paradise I think is going to be a great set.
Bird Watching, 2 mana, discover a minion from your deck, give all copies of it to 1 wherever they are.
This reminds me of that Rhino from a few years ago where, well, sorry, not the Rhino, but there was a card that you could discover a beast from your deck and buff its stats. It was used with the Rhinos. I forget the name of it, but that saw a lot of play in Hunter. This is the same kind of flavor. I think this will see a lot of play too, because it's a way of It's card draw because it's a discovery minion from your deck, so you get to draw that minion, and then it's also stat buffs too. So this is a good card.
Yeah, this is again like better than Warlock. You don't have to damage yourself, and you're buffing whatever you're drawing. So poor Warlock.
Poor Warlock, always hurting itself.
Moving on to Priest.
Okay, we got the Hunter Tourist card. So this Chillin Vol'jin, this card allows Priest to access any of the Hunter cards that we just reviewed. It has a battle cry, choose 2 minions, swap their stats. This card it's kind of like a control card. If you have a big buff, like a big large minion on the other side of the board, and you want to address it, you can swap its stats with a smaller minion on your side, or vice versa. If you have a small minion on your side, and you can play this card, all of a sudden swap the stats and have a really large minion that can go face. It's already on board.
Well, and unlike directed damage or like directed spells, can't battle cries target elusives?
That is correct.
So I think you could probably use Chillin Vol'jin to swap the stats off that pesky 6/6 elusive dragon that we saw earlier with something with less health to try to get rid of it.
Yep, this is a good card. Again, tourist cards, this set, all of them are pretty good. I think we'll see a lot of this card going forward.
I agree. Sauna Regular, 5 mana, 5/5 taunt, costs 1 less for each time your hero has taken damage on your turn, and it's an undead.
So we're going to find out in the coming cards. There's lots of ways for priests to do self damage in this set. So this card is essentially a 0 mana 5/5 taunt, and it mana cheat good. This will see a lot of play.
This with the, what is it called? Arcane Projectionist. The 3/2 that gives you a temporary copy in your hand. You could get out ostensibly 4 5/5s with taunt on the board on the same turn. If you have 2, is that what it's called? Projectionist?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
If you have 2 of those in your hand and you've taken enough damage, this could be a really good swing turn for not a lot of mana.
And it has taunt too, so it's a way of defending yourself. It's going to be pesky, and it'll probably come out when you play it for 0 mana and by turn before turn 5.
Brain Masseuse, 1 mana 2/4 undead pirate. Whenever this minion takes damage, also deal that amount to your hero.
This makes me think that the previous aggro priest decks that we saw last year are going to make a bit of a comeback. 1 mana 2/4. If you have a way of silencing it, then it's just it's got no downside.
And if you don't silence it, then it cheats out your taunts even earlier.
That's true too. Play this on turn 1, take a couple of self damages, and then all of a sudden the Sauna Regular comes out for 0 mana a couple turns later.
And then you just heal up.
Hot Coals, 3 mana, deal 2 damage to all enemies. If your hero took damage this turn, deal 1 more. So this is a nice AoE to have at 2 damage. It's a great AoE. That it competes with a lot of other cards out there. There's the one card I can think of for Paladin that does 2 damage to all enemies. 3 damage is even better. It's a good AoE for the mana cost. I think this will be included in a lot of priest decks.
1 mana shadow spell Acupuncture, deal 4 damage to both heroes.
So this is 1 mana, deal 4 damage essentially to your opponent. I think this is a great card. I think this will see a lot of play, and it's self-damaging, so that it's a way for you to cheat out your Sauna Regular. I think we'll be seeing a lot of this card from this set.
It's just interesting that Priest has a very strong Warlock vibe.
Yeah, it really
This
does. And you
feels like
can't
a
even
Warlock card to me.
yeah, and you can't even access this as a warlock. So
Yeah.
the class that can access priest is demon hunter, which seems kind of weird to me that because demon hunter and priest don't really have the same kind of vibe to them. But yeah, for a demon hunter, this will be essentially a great card because demon hunters tend to be very aggressive. This could be a little bit of extra reach that you need to kill your opponent very quickly. Yeah, this is a good card.
Another very sinister spell, 2 mana, Nightshade Tea. Shadow spell, deal 3 damage to a minion, deal 2 damage to your hero, 3 drinks left.
Are we sure this is not a warlock card?
Right?
Yeah. This is another one of those drink mechanics that we talked about earlier. So you get 3 uses of this card. So there's a lot of value there. It's a way of addressing early board presence on your opponent's side. This is a decent card. I like this card.
It feels like we're moving away from Control Priest, like you said, into like a faster paced Shadow Priest like we saw last season or the season before. So yeah, this is totally on theme. 6 mana Sensory Deprivation Shadow spell. Summon a copy of an enemy minion. If you have 20 or less health, destroy the original.
So this card, I think, vibes and synergizes quite well with the whole self-damaging aspect. I don't think it's going to be very difficult for Priest this set to get below 20 health. So this is a way of basically dealing with a big board presence on the other side while at the same time creating some board presence on your side. It's a better reverberation, essentially.
And you can definitely get the value out of destroying the original very quickly with the 1 mana Acupuncture, the 2 mana Nightshade Tea, the 1 mana Brain Masseuse. There are a lot of ways of damaging Priest this X pack. 3 mana Shadow spell, Rest in Peace. Each player summons their highest cost minion that died this game.
I like this card. This is a way of creating more value. Priest as a class in whole tends to play bigger minions rather than smaller minions. So this is a way of essentially one card I could think of is probably the Titan for Priest. It's 7 mana. I can't think of any other cards in Priest that cost more than 7. So this is 3 mana resummon your Titan for me for Priest, which
I can
think
see people using it for Amanthul, but I can also see Priest using this to resummon Yogg, and then using Yogg to steal whatever the highest cost resummon is from their opponent.
Yeah, so this card will, I think, have a lot of value in Priest because you get to, like you said, summon Yogg, summon Amanthul, whatever happens to be the largest one, and then that minion has a way typically of dealing with the minion on the other side that gets summoned. So this is going to be a good card.
Yeah.
Twilight Medium, 6 mana taunt, battle cry, set the cost of the top card of your deck to 1. It's a shame that this card didn't come out with the whole dredge mechanic from Sunken City, because that would be insane.
That would be ridiculous.
That'd be so ridiculous. Even still, though, it's a way of potentially cheating out something large in your deck if you're playing a lot of big things. On that same token, though, if you happen to have a 1 mana card at the top of your deck, it kind of feels bad to play this for 6 mana and then reduce a Brain Masseuse from 1 mana to 0.
I think it's 2/1, not by 1, so it'd be changing it from 1 to 1.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I feel even worse. You don't even get.
That's even worse.
But yeah, I can see a lot of shenanigans, especially in Wild. I think this card is going to be really bonkers.
Yeah, definitely more value in Wild than Standard, I would think.
4 mana, 4/4, Narain, Sooth Fancy, Battle Cry, get 2 fortunes that are copies of the top card of your deck. would go really well with the last card we just saw.
Yeah, that is true. So you play this on turn 4, you get to know what the top card is on your deck. So if you want to wait to play the Twilight Medium, you can see what your top card is. All of a sudden, play Twilight Medium. And I guess one question is, if you use this with Twilight Medium, do the fortunes also get reduced to 1 mana? If that's the case, then there probably is a lot of value, including Twilight Medium in your deck.
I would think so. Because this is looking at the copies, and this is setting the cost of the copies.
So there you go. You could probably cheat out a 1 mana Yogg.
We'll have to see
9.
how it works, but it seems as though that's the way it would go.
Yeah.
Moving on to Demon Hunter. 6 mana Cliff Dive. Summon 2 minions from your deck and give them a rush. They go back at the end of your turn.
Oh, this is interesting because it probably would not go well with battle cries, but it would probably go well with death rattles or something to that extent. For me, Demon Hunter tends to not play a lot of big stuff outside of you get to see the occasional big demon deck with Demon Hunter, but beyond that, it tends to play a lot of smaller things rather than larger things. So there has to be some support for this card in order for it to have value.
Is Illidari Inquisitor still in rotation?
I believe it is, actually.
So that would be really good with us. It's a 6 mana, basically clear 2 really terrible things on your opponent's side of the board.
Mm-hmm. So next up we have All Terrain Voidhound, 7 mana, 5/8. Whenever this attacks, give your hero +5 attack this turn. So this card doesn't have rush or any way to like have it attack on the turn it's played. So it's a very slow card for me. You have to play this
unless you get it with Cliff Dive.
That is true. Give them rush. All of a sudden you have you summon 2 of these, you get +10 attack for your hero.
That's kind of gross.
So maybe we do see some big demon decks from Demon Hunter this set.
3 mana Shadow Spell, Skirting Death. Choose a minion. This turn your hero steals 4 attack from it.
So Demon Hunter loves to buff the attack of the hero itself. This is a way of doing that. You can ship this 4 damage face for 3 mana. The only caveat is that the minion that you target this with has to have at least 4 attack in order for you to steal the attack. So it could be less than 4 attack depending on the minion that's targeted.
That's true, yes. So this is more of a later or mid-game card.
Mm-hmm.
5 mana, 5/6, Arana Thrillseeker. Priest Tourist. Damage your hero takes on your turn is redirected to a random enemy.
So it's important to note this is not a battle cry. This is an active effect. So as long as this card stays on the board, you get that extra bit of value as a Demon Hunter.
And this is kind of gross with like the drink card that we saw from Priest and a couple of the other the 1 mana spell that we saw that does 4 damage to both heroes. That would be 8 damage to your opponent, since the 4 damaging you is redirected to the enemy hero if there are no minions on board.
Mm-hmm. So next up we have Climbing Hook. It's a 6 mana 5/2 weapon, but it does not lose durability when you control a minion with 5 or more attack. So this could go well with Arana because it has at least 5 attack. So it could potentially be an infinite weapon, but you have to keep a large minion on the board.
Or just remember to not swing if you don't.
Yeah.
Sigil of Skydiving. 2 mana, fall spell. At the start of your next turn, summon 3 1/1 pirates with charge.
This is a 2-mana deal 3 face, and then have some little 1/1s on the board afterwards. I like this card. I think it'll see play.
It's definitely on theme with Demon Hunter class. There's a lot of smork for not a lot of mana.
Yeah, and it's a fell spell too, which, as we'll review later on, Shaman as a class has access to these Demon Hunter cards this set with their tourist, and Shaman generally does not have access to fell spells, so this could have also see some play in Shaman.
4 mana Dangerous Cliffside. Summon 2 1/1 pirates with charge. After your hero attacks, reopen this.
So this is a lot of value, and you can basically use this twice per turn with using the Demon Hunter hero power to go face as well. I like this card. I think it'll see some play.
Paraglide. 3 mana, both players draw 3 cards. Outcast, only you do.
This is going to be such a frustrating card because it could potentially burn cards for your opponent.
Yeah.
So if you're playing against the Demon Hunter, you got to always keep in mind the fact that you should not have more than 7 cards in hand, because otherwise it's gonna burn cards for you.
Mm-hmm. It will be even worse if someone has 2 paraglides in one turn.
Yep.
So this will be problematic for hand lock. It'll be problematic for pain lock. It'll be problematic for mage. A lot of classes are running decks right now where you want to have a lot of cards in hand, or you're generating a lot of cards. You have cards that are giving you other cards. Paraglide is going to be probably talked about a lot and not enjoyed by people who aren't playing it.
One of the few outcast cards that you do not want to play in the outcast position.
Yes. Oh, true. Unless your opponent has very few cards, then you want to rob them of card draw.
Yep.
2 mana, 2/2 Demon Pirate, Adrenaline Fiend. After friendly pirate attacks, give your hero +1 attack this turn.
I think this card will have a lot of synergy with the other pirate effects that we have in this class. The Sigil of Skydiving, at the start of your next turn, summon 3 1/1 pirates with charge. You play this on 2, and then you play Adrenaline Fiend on turn 3. All of a sudden, your hero could be hitting face for 4 damage.
Well, and if you play the Dangerous Cliffside,
yep, that too.
This also is going to give your hero more attack with the Adrenaline Fiend as well.
Yep, this will be a lot of value for a very aggressive early deck. Speaking
of pirates, 1 mana 1/1 Patches the Pilot. Demon Pirate. Battlecry, shuffle 6 parachutes into your deck that summon a 1/1 pirate with charge when drawn.
I love the flavor behind this card. It being patches and everything. Oh, that's so amazing.
Yeah, and this will synergize really well again with the Adrenaline Fiends. It'll be interesting to see if we get Pirate Demon Hunter as a thing. I feel like a lot of people are used to seeing Pirate Warrior or Pirate Rogue, so this is Demon Hunter's turn to shine with the pirates.
Yep.
Moving on to Shaman. 4 mana Matching Outfits. Transform a minion into a random one that costs 1 more, then summon a copy of it.
For me, transform effects don't really have a lot of support right now. Transform a minion into a random one. If you could control what it transforms into, that might be a bit better. There's the 1 mana card right now that can do that. Transform it, but you can discover what it transforms into. For me, I think this will be a little bit slow for Shaman.
Yeah, and if this were in the early days of Hearthstone, where stats were more based off of attack and health, you'd probably get better randoms. But there are so many expensive minions now that are only expensive because of their battle cry or their effect, that you could be summoning something that doesn't really have good stats and that isn't doing much to synergize with the rest of your deck.
Next up, we have Meltamental. It's a 3-mana 3/8 taunt. It's an elemental, and it also has the added effect. This is permanently frozen. So it's never be able to attack. This is definitely a defensive card. If you are up against a very aggressive deck, put this down on turn 3, and the opposing board probably has to deal with it. Otherwise, they probably won't win the game. I'm torn behind this card. It's not proactive enough for me, but at the same time, if Elemental Shaman becomes a thing this set, this probably sees play in Elemental Shaman.
Well, and we used to have like 3-mana 3/3 taunts. So the fact that this can't attack, but it has 8 health instead of 3 just already makes it better as a defensive card.
Mm-hmm.
3-mana nature spell, Natural Talent. Get a random Naga and a random spell. They cost 1 less.
This is value. This is mana sheet. It's got the nature tag on it. I think this might find a home somewhere in Shaman. I don't know where, but I think there's some value there that can't be ignored.
Yeah, you don't know if what you're going to get is going to be playable soon or not, but especially if people are doing like a Highlander deck, I can see this filling a slot.
Mm-hmm.
Carefree Cookie, 3-mana 2/2 Murloc Pirate. Demon Hunter Tourist. After a friendly minion dies, summon a random minion that costs 1 more.
So this will definitely see play simply from the fact that it is the tourist card that Shaman has this set. For me, the effect is probably one of the weaker effects of all the tourist cards, but there is some value there. You play this on turn 3, you use a previously summoned minion to attack into something else. It dies. You get to have a slightly larger minion take its place. It's a good card. It'll be included.
I feel like it's going to be auto include because it's the tourist. I agree with that, and it is a really great way to generate a board if you're clearing your opponent's board. So it'll probably get saved for that. 7-mana 4/4 Naga, Razzle Dazzler, Battlecry, summon a random 5-cost minion, repeat for each spell school you've cast this game.
So this card will work well with the ability to access fell spells in Demon Hunter because that's 1 additional 5/5. I don't know how I feel about this card because 7 mana is a lot, and you could potentially spend 7 mana and not get the greatest 5 drops. Or on the flip side, you could summon this card and then have some really good 5 drops. So this is a lot of randomness that could go either way.
This feels like a very RNG version of the Mage spell that I believe also costs about 7, that summons 4 5s with random effects for each spell school you cast this game, just attached to a body.
And even that's not included in Mage right now.
That's true. It used to be.
It used to be, but yeah, it's gotten a little slow now.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this is too slow as well.
5-mana frost spell, Froste Decor. Summon 2/4 elementals with taunt, and Death Rattle, gain 4 armor.
I like this card. This is another defensive card for Shaman. It kind of reminds me of the 3-mana card that summons the 2 wolves with taunt, but it's got a little extra value in it as well. I think it's got a chance, and it's a frost spell too. So again, you get to increase your spell skills because I don't think there's too many frost spells in Shaman right now that Shaman has access to.
And with so many cards doing like a large amount of damage to both heroes or both enemies, it just feels good getting that extra armor since it is becoming more and more prevalent in Hearthstone to be able to do 30 damage in a turn, and we no longer have 40 health decks. thanks to the Nothria cards rotating out. This is a way to just help your hero last a little bit longer if you're looking to play like a mid-range or control deck. 2 mana Siren Song. Get 2 random spells from spell schools you have not cast this game.
This card is nice. It's value. It gives you some more spells to cast from hand. You can also target certain spell schools after you've played. After you've played the spells that normally Shaman have access to, like Nature, Frost. You can include a Fel spell in there with Demon Hunter. So once you cast all those, you play this card. You probably get like a Holy One and a Shadow spell. So there's some value there for sure.
And it helps if you are planning on trying to play, where was it? Razzle Dazzler.
Razzle Dazzler.
That's another way to summon a couple more 5/5s.
Yep.
5 mana, 5/5, Caress Cabaret Star. While in your hand, play 2 different spell schools to transform.
So with this card, I believe depending on the spell schools, this will get different bonus effects.
I think this is where we see them.
Yeah, so once you get this in hand, you can tutor out the effects that you want based on the spell schools that you cast. And then once you've cast those 2 spell schools, you can play this with the battle cry that's dependent on the spell schools.
So there was another Naga that transformed based on spell school that you played. And this is just adding to that by transforming twice. So there's so many different versions of Caress Cabaret Star. And if you are interested in seeing all of them, you can go on the Play Hearthstone website and look at each variant. Just to read a couple of them, one of them is Battle Cry, draw 2 cards, deal 6 damage to the enemy hero. Another one is deal 6 to the enemy hero, deal 2 damage to all enemy minions. Battle Cry, restore 6 health to your hero, destroy 2 random enemy minions. So there are a lot of different options, a very versatile card, and a lot of value for 5 mana.
Yeah, I'm very excited to play with Perils in Paradise. There's so many good cards. I cannot wait.
And it's fun having a card like this too, where there's so many different variants of it. It just feels like it keeps things fresh. It gives you a lot of options. And I think there are a lot of people who prefer being able to cast certain schools and get a desired effect as opposed to all the RNG that is present in a lot of the cards. 4 mana, 3/3 Naga, Cabaret Headliner. Battle Cry, reduce the cost of a spell of each school in your hand by 2.
I feel like somehow the current Nature Shaman decks that are being played right now are going to find a home for this card, because then everything in their hand costs 2 less, essentially. If you can plan it out properly and have a nature spell, a fire spell, you could essentially sneak out your Ragnaros for even less.
Yeah, this is a lot of value.
Malted Magma. This is another drink card. 2 mana, deal 1 damage to all enemies, and it has 3 uses, similar to all the other drink cards.
It's a fire spell. It's AoE. There are a lot of classes that are running smaller minions right now. So if you're playing against Demon Hunter, for example, which is running a lot of 1/1 pirates, this could have a lot of value. If buff Paladin continues to persist in the next meta, this has a lot of value. Even if you're not clearing minions off board, you're taking off Divine Shield. I think this will see play.
It also goes face.
That's true. Yes, all enemies, not just enemy minions.
Yeah, this will find a home somewhere.
All right, before we move on to Death Knight, this is a lot of talking because there are 145 cards. So Tetra and I are going to take a quick break, and then we will be right back and continue talking about the rest of the cards for Perils in Paradise. Welcome back to our card review on Perils in Paradise, the only time when I enunciate every word and it feels very strange. We have our special guest star, the Tetra, with us, and we're about to delve into Death Knight.
Horizon's Edge. It's a 4-mana location, 5 uses. I don't think we've ever seen a 5-use location yet before. Deal 3 damage, randomly split amongst all enemies, so including the enemy hero. After a friendly minion dies, reopen this. This, I think, has a lot of value, and it can be used more than once in a turn. So you can set this up, potentially clearing the enemy board, and then activating the location and sending all this damage face. So this, I like this card. I think it'll see some play.
It definitely feels like a good control card, and it's a nice way of spending 4 mana on a turn when you might not have a whole lot else to do.
And if we refer to the trusty graphic on the left-hand side of Bridget's page here, this can be accessed by Warlock as well.
Yeah. And let's just take a moment also to appreciate this artwork. This is super cool.
Lovely. Oh, lovely.
This is what you don't want to happen on vacation. And I've seen a lot of people asking, where are the perils in this paradise? This certainly looks perilous. 2 mana frost spell. It is double frost. So this cannot be used in a rainbow deck. Slippery Slope. Freeze the character, draw a card for each frozen character.
So as mentioned, this is a double frost, so it will not see play in any of the rainbow decks that we have currently. I think this probably sees more play in Warlock rather than Death Knight, because it is also a draw engine. So if you freeze at least one character, you'll draw at least one card. If more than one is frozen, you can generate even more card draw from that. So I think this will see play in Warlock, but probably not necessarily Demon or a Death Knight.
And again, we keep talking about it. Poor Warlock. This is a card draw that doesn't damage you. You don't have to spend health to play it. 4 mana, 4/4 undead Snow Shredder. Costs 1 if a character is frozen.
So this has some synergies with the card that we had just talked about. So if you use Slippery Slope, even freeze the enemy hero if you need to, all of a sudden Snow Shredder becomes a 1 mana 4/4.
This is excellent mana cheat. 3 mana, 2/2 undead pirate. Frostbitten Freebooter. Death Rattle. Freeze 3 random enemies. Any that were already frozen, take 5 damage instead.
So this again will go well with the Slippery Slope, because once you play this card, you freeze a bunch of enemies, then you play Slippery Slope, you get to draw a bunch of cards.
This is like 3 or 6 Ice Lances with a body. So high value.
I like it. I look forward to playing this card. Brittlebone Buccaneer. Whenever you play a Death Rattle minion, give it Reborn. This one I'm not as excited about because it's a lot of setup for necessarily not a lot of gain. The stats are underwhelming, I guess, for what it does. So it's probably one of the weaker cards for me in the set.
The only argument I could see for this is the instance of playing this plus the 6 mana Death Rattle that gains 3 minions stitched to it.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? I can't think of the name right now. It's like
Yeah,
a 6/5.
Dr. Stitch
And Sew. Yeah. If you play Brittlebone Buccaneer plus Stitch and Sew, that is a pretty good value. I've had some pretty inane games as a Death Knight where I've played Stitch and Sew and then played the Yodeler on it. So if you throw the Brittlebone Buccaneer in there, you're also giving that Reborn and getting another instance of your Stitch and Sew, which can be really difficult for your enemy to remove over multiple turns. Gold Knight.
You go, Ghouls.
Hey. 4 mana, 7/5/1/1 ghouls that attack random enemies, and it is an one unholy slot.
At the very least, this is a corpse generator.
Yeah, and for 4 mana, you're getting 5/1/1s. Currently, is that a 3 or 4 mana that gives you 4 1/1 gnomes with rush?
It's 3 mana, and with those ones, they die at the end of the turn. So with this card, you could summon 5. Potentially, they all go face, and then they're alive to just hang around and deal with something later.
I have to read the flavor text for this one. Oh my gosh, did you hear what Jessicorp said to Deathity? Oh, cute. That's adorable.
This will also have some good synergy with the legendary card that we're going to come up to here pretty quick.
2 mana, 2/2 Undead Pirate, Dreadhound Handler, Rush, Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 Dreadhound with Reborn.
I like this card. It's 2 mana, 2/2 with Rush and a Death Rattle. You get to have a bit of board presence, corpse generation. I think this will be a pretty good card for the more aggressive decks in Death Knight.
I would talk about power creep, but this has power creep on so many cards, we couldn't even list them all in a day. Oh man, yeah. Very, very valuable. 4 mana, 4/3 Undead Pirate, Eliza Goreblade, 1 blood, 1 frost card. Death Rattle, for the rest of the game, your minions have +1 attack.
I think this is a 5-star card. There's so many ways for you to... you had mentioned previously the Yodeler.
Yeah.
You can use that with this and then get even more value. So you get +1 attack and then +1 attack on top of that. There's so many ways to double proc the Death Rattle if you're able to. And then for the rest of the game, anytime you see that effect, rest of the game, it's always tremendous value to it. This, for me, is a 5-star card.
It'll be interesting to see if this is discoverable off of the Headless Horseman hero power.
Oh, that would be nice.
Because I think you can currently discover Reska, can't you? And she's legendary.
That's true, yep.
So this could get out of control real quick. If your opponent lucks out, plays Horseman on, 6? And finds a couple Elizas. And has a Yodeler. Oh.
Yep.
We're not going to think about that until it happens.
It's going to be so much fun. And this will work well with Ghouls Night, too, because all of a sudden those 1/1s become 2/1s.
Mm-hmm. 2 mana frost spell, Corpsicle. Deal 3 damage, spend 3 corpses to return this to your hand at the end of your turn.
I absolutely love this card. I think in the Rainbow Death Knight, it will find a home. It's so much value because you have so many ways to generate corpses and then bring this back to your hand at the end of your turn. It's essentially infinite because there's so many games where I finished a game as Death Knight and I still have 20-some corpses.
Yeah, or more.
Left in my bank. So you can use this essentially every turn if you have the mana to spend it.
Which will synergize really well with Climactic Necrotic Explosion, right?
Yep.
Because you're spending 3 corpses on a continuous basis. This has strong mage vibes to me. I know it has corpses, so it's on theme with Death Knight, but remember there used to be a mage card where you did 3 damage, and then if you infused, 3, you got that copy back in your hand?
Yes, I remember that card.
Ice something. So this is another frost card, ice card, that
Yep.
is putting the spell back in your hand and you keep being able to do 3 damage with it. So yeah, I think this will see
And
a lot of play.
and I think this will also see play in Warlock because Warlock typically doesn't have a way to go face with spells, but this one it's 3 damage. That doesn't say not just a minion; it can go face. It's definitely a good card.
I agree.
Buttons. This is the Shaman Tourist. So with this card, Death Knight can access Shaman cards. Battle Cry, draw a spell of each spell school. So there's not many spell schools that I can think of in Death Knight, but if you want to start including the different spells from Shaman, this is a great way to have selective card draw and get those spells into your hand. This will be an auto include simply because of the fact that it's a tourist card, but again, it's also a draw engine on top of that.
And then didn't Shaman have a new spell that gives us spells from different spell schools not played this game? Was that Shaman?
Yep.
So
That is
then
Shaman, yep.
it's possible to find that and or to use that and get more spell schools. So oh, but this is drawing a spell of each spell school. So I guess you wouldn't draw those unless you'd already discovered them and then played like the Gaslight 3/4 that shuffles cards and then draws that many. Okay.
I think this will be a good card for Rainbow because Rainbow Death Knight typically has a few different spell skills. Sometimes a Blood, sometimes a Frost. So yeah, it's a draw engine. I like this card.
Moving on to Warlock. 3 mana Fel spell, Health Drink. Health is in quotation marks. Lifesteal, deal 3 damage to a minion, 3 drinks left.
Yeah, another drink card, another solid card. There's so many ways for Warlock to self damage that this will be some nice lifesteal healing. I like it.
And it only takes up 1 slot in your deck, and you get basically 3. What was the other card that used to be heal 3? Siphonsal?
Yes.
So you get to include 3 of those in 1 slot. So really good value.
I like it. Announce Darkness. Replace your hero power with power and non-warlock cards with warlock ones. They cost 1 less. I would assume that it refers to the cards in your hand, not necessarily your deck. So whatever non-warlock cards you have in your hand, it could be replaced with different cards.
I'm not sure about that. It might replace your deck as well.
Was it your deck? Okay.
We'll have to find out.
Yeah, we'll have to investigate. I don't know. Typically, when I'm Warlock, I like my Warlock hero power. And so I'm not as convinced that this is going to be a good card.
The only argument I can see for this card is decks that are playing like a lot of card draw and a lot of cycling to try to get through their deck to find something, and then if you find your key pieces that you need and it's end game, you only have cards left that are no longer useful at this stage of the game, then you replace them with something that may or may not be useful but isn't not useful. So it's possible that it could find its home in a couple of decks. 4 mana, 4/4 undead, Summoner Dark Marrow, Death Knight Tourist. Your Death Rattles trigger twice. After you play a Death Rattle minion, destroy it.
So this would go well with the Death Knight legendary Eliza Goreblade. So you play this card on 4, play the Eliza on the next turn, and then it'll kill Eliza, but it'll have the Death Rattle effect activate twice. So all of a sudden, all your minions for the rest of the game have +2 attack.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a lot of value there.
I agree. I could also see people being highly triggered by this on turn 9. If you play Dark Marrow and then Sylvanas.
Yes.
Disgusting.
Oh, people won't like that.
Let's not talk about it. That way no one will do it. Too late. 2 mana fire spell. Eat the imp. Sounds like a game show. Destroy a friendly minion to draw 3 cards.
To your previous point, this is a draw engine that does not self-damage, so this is probably going to be pretty good.
Mm-hmm. And you could destroy a Death Rattle minion that you want to die anyway.
Yep.
And Warlock has a lot of cheap minions, so sacrificing a 1/1 or a 1/2 is not too terrible in order to draw 3 cards.
Yep, I like it.
3 mana 1/6 demon, sacrificial imp, death rattle. If it's your turn, summon a 6/6 imp with taunt. Sounds like something you could use with the previous card.
If only we had a way to destroy a friendly minion.
On our turn. Yeah.
So using this with the previous card, that's 5 mana, summon a 6/6 imp with taunt, and draw 3 cards. That's pretty good for 5 mana.
Very good. Well, triggered twice, so we get 2 6/6s. Right?
Yep.
Very, very valuable.
First souvenir. Give a minion +3/+3, and at the start of your turn, deal 3 damage to your hero. I like it. It's a stat bomb. It does a little bit of self damage. This will probably find a home in the Pain Warlock decks that we currently see in Standard. It's just a little extra stats and a little extra damage. So you play one of the smaller minions on turn, or like what's that treant that does 5 damage? You play that
The
on
blood treant.
turn. Yeah, blood treant. You play that on turn 2. Cast this onto your blood treant on turn 2. And all of a sudden you have a turn 2 5/5 that continuously self-damages.
And we have a lot of healing to make up for it now.
Yep.
2 mana 1/1 demon. Fearless Flame Juggler. Battle Cry gains stats equal to the damage your hero has taken this turn.
I like it. It's a very cheap minion with potentially a lot of upside. It goes really well with the card we just reviewed, Cursed Souvenir, because the Cursed Souvenir deals 3 damage at the start of the turn. So you play Cursed Souvenir. The very next turn you play this, and you're looking at least a 2 mana 4/4, or potentially more if you have other ways to self damage on top of that. Fellfire Bonfire, deal 4 damage to a minion. If it dies, your next Death Rattle minion costs 3 less. And this is a Fell spell. So this is essentially a 1 mana card if you want to fit it into a turn that you're already planning on summoning a Death Rattle minion. So if you have a 3 mana Death Rattle minion that you want to play, but you also want to deal with an opposing minion, you cast the spell, kill the minion, and then summon your Death Rattle on top of that.
Yeah,
Just,
that's an ultra value.
Cling, cling, cling. Man, you capping.
Yeah, good.
Cling, 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 cling. Oh, you capping. Drip, splash,
6
water,
mana,
drip,
4/4,
splash, splash,
Party
drip,
Planner
water,
bonus.
splash, splash,
Battle
drip,
Cry,
water.
if you've taken 8 damage on your turns, summon Orobos.
What's an Orobos?
Orobos World Serpent is an 8 mana 8/8 beast, taunt, Death Rattle, give a minion in your hand Death Rattle, summon Orobos.
So all you got to do is make sure you've done at least 8 damage on your turns, and you get this massive 8/8 on turn 6 on top of this 4/4, which is a lot of stats. I like it.
And that is Death Rattle, give a minion in your hand Death Rattle, summon Orobos. So as long as you keep having minions in your hand, you keep getting this back, right?
Yep.
That's disgusting.
I like
will enjoy playing that.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
For the person playing it. 1 mana 1/1 demon. Party Fiend. Battlecry. Summon 2 1/1 Fell Beasts. Deal 3 damage to your hero.
I like it. This is, I think this will probably replace the 3/2 imp that we see in Pain Warlock decks, because it's even more stats. You get 3/3 in stats instead of 3/2, while also dealing 3 damage. Yeah, I think this is a good card. I think it'll see play.
And it could synergize well with the Fearless Flame Juggler that is also new in this set. Moving on to Rogue.
Snatch and Grab. 8 mana, destroy 2 random enemy minions, cost 1 less for each card you've played from another class. So this is essentially 0 mana, destroy 2 enemy minions.
Yep. I think this will definitely get put into Rogue. 4 mana, 4/4 Pirate, Conniving Con Man. Battlecry, replay the last card you've played from another class.
This card feels a little slow for Rogue, like 4 mana. Typically, Rogues like to play 100 cards in turn instead of just one 4/4 minion. So it has no way of generating another card from another class by itself. So this feels a little slow for me for Rogue.
The only way I could see this being played is late game, if you've played something very expensive from another class.
Yep.
So we'll see, but I agree with you. It feels kind of chonky for earlier mid game. 3 mana, 3/2 Pirate, Sea Shill. Battlecry, the next card you play from a non-rogue class costs 2 less.
Yeah, it's mana cheat. I think there's some value there. I'm not too sure how it will fit in personally, but I think there's something there.
Yeah, it's basically, you're basically paying 1 mana for this card as long as you're playing something else from a different class that's playable that turn. So you're getting a body on board, has decent stats.
Does it have to be that turn, though, or can you bank this for a future turn?
Oh, good question. Next card you play from a non-rogue class. It doesn't say this turn, so yeah, you could play this. And then...
You could cheat out a bigger spell or whatever for minion. And I wonder if it'll work, too, because with the... with Warlock cards, because Rogue has access to Warlock cards in the deck, so this is probably a way for you to cheat out something big from the Warlock class too. You play this on 3, and then you can cheat out something on turn 4 that would have otherwise normally been playable on a 3. Oh, you can. What about a Robos?
It'll be interesting to see if Tourist is considered part of Rogue, since it's accessible in the class cards that you can put into your deck or not.
You could play Party Planner Verona. That's not the tourist card. So you could play Seashell on 3, and on turn 4 you could play Party Planner Verona and get a Robos on top of that if you've done 8 self-damage so far.
That's gross. I like it. 6 mana, 4/5 Pirate, Treasure Hunter Eudora. Things are about to get messy. One of my favorite Hearthstone characters. Battlecry, go on a side quest to discover amazing loot. Play 3 cards from other classes to complete it.
I like it. It's a battle cry, so it doesn't have to stay on the board for you to complete the quest or the side quest. You play this on turn 6, and then you probably play 3 cards very quickly thereafter, because they probably cost 0 mana because it's Rogue, and then you get an amazing loot.
And let's look at this amazing loot. There's a lot of possible loot. Steady Shot, Annoyatron, Boombot, Psychotron, Annoyo Module, Annoyatron, Canopic Jars, Ancient Snake, Bloodhound, Blade of Quel'Dalar, Hilt of Quel'Dalar, Annoyotroop, Annoying Fan, Necrotic Poison, Mutating Injection, Exorciser. So a lot of cards, a lot of these are from What was the mode that I used to love to play that we don't have anymore?
This is like Kazakhstan treasures.
Oh, it is Kazakhstan treasures, but weren't they also available in what mode do we no longer have?
Duels.
Duels. I can't believe it's been so long that I forgot what it was called. Thank you. Pure Gold, Bubba, Holy Book, Krusty the Crustacean, Looming Presence, Spyglass, Clockwork Assistant, Puzzle Box, Hyper Blaster, Gnomish Army Knife, Wand of Disintegration, my personal favorite, Staff of Scales. I thought we already saw Canopic Jars. Ancient Reflections, Banana Split, Dr. Boom's Boombox, Wax Rager, very sticky, Embers of Ragnaros, Book of the Dead, another great card, Anoia Horn, Grimmer Patron, Beastly Beauty, Vampiric Fangs, Eudora's Treasure Hunt, which is the side quest that you could get from the side quest, Blade of Queldalar, Hilt of Queldalar, and Beautiful Beast. Wait, is this really, is this accurate? Can you get the side quest from the side quest? Or is this just in the learn more so that you know what the side quest is?
I think that's it.
Gosh, that would be, I would play that deck all the time if you could get the side quest from just on principle. But yeah, a lot of good things you can get from Treasure Hunter Eudora for things that you're going to be doing anyway as a rogue. So
yep, I like it.
Seems like a really valuable card.
I won't like it when I'm playing against it, but I like it.
Exactly. 3 mana, 3/3 pirate, Swarthy Sword Shiner, Battlecry, set the attack and durability of your weapon to 3.
I like this too. You this even works with your hero power too, right? So you summon your hero power weapon on turn 2, play this on turn 3. All of a sudden, you have a 3/3 weapon equipped on turn 3.
And if you play any other weapon and the durability is down to 1, this is a way to get a couple more hits out of it.
Yep. I like it.
3 mana, 2/2 Metal Detector. After your hero attacks and kills a minion, get a coin.
This goes very well with the minion we just saw. So you equip the weapon, attack once. It has 1 charge left. You play the Swarthy Sword Shiner, if I can even pronounce it properly. And your 2/1 weapon becomes a 3/3 weapon again.
And we all know rogues love coins, so hopefully that doesn't mean we see another resurgence of Wishing Well.
Oh, I hope not. Oh, goodness.
3 mana, 4 durability location, Knick-Knack Shack. Draw a card. If you play it this turn, reopen this.
Oh, okay, so this is 3 mana, draw 17 for rogue in a turn. No, this will be a card that rogues will utilize. They'll probably burn through the entire 4 uses of this in 1 turn. Knowing rogue, it's a draw engine. Yeah, you'll see this in every rogue deck I think.
Oh, Manager! 2 mana, deal 2 damage, combo, get a coin.
What was that rogue card that was the AoE summon the 3/2 that looks very similar to the artwork of this one? I can't remember the name of it, but I love the voice lines. Oh, Manager!
I thought there was a Warlock card that disgruntled customer that cleared the whole board, and it cost less if you had more cards in your hand or something like that, right?
No, it was deal damage equal to your hand size.
Oh, equal to hand size. That's what it was. Yeah. Okay, which you can't really do anymore because of Glide. But yeah, on theme with that. Yeah, again, this seems like an auto-include. You're dealing 2 damage. You're getting a coin. You're a rogue. You're going to be able to combo it. Even if you can't, 2 damage for 2 mana if you're really desperate. It's not bad.
Prep this out for 0, get a coin. Like there's lots of value there.
Yeah.
Maestra, Mask Merchant. This is the Warlock Tourist card. Battlecry, discover a hero card from the past, from another class. What does that even mean? So is that the one of the
So you could be like
hero cards?
You could be Guff. You could become Mal'Ganis,
no.
the turtle.
Oh no. I don't like this card already.
Yeah.
Someone delete it.
But does it really fit into any rogue meta right now? We don't really have a Maestro rogue. And it's 6 mana.
Yeah, that's a pretty expensive.
Is it going to get
card.
played just because it's a tourist and becoming a different hero is just for giggles? Or maybe we'll see a different type of rogue come out that we haven't seen in a while?
Yeah, maybe. It'll definitely get played because it's a tourist card, but
yeah.
you're
I like the
definitely not
flavor of
keeping
it. It just feels like it doesn't really fit into anything that's currently in the meta, but we'll see.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see whether people make a slower type of rogue that includes that. This is the roguest of roguey cards. 2 mana Petty Theft. Get 2 random 1-cost spells from other classes.
Yeah, this will probably be the first of 12 cards you see a rogue play in a turn.
Yeah,
I would think. Yeah, it's some randomness. It's gonna fit well into rogue decks, I think.
And the fact that they're like playable early is gonna make this probably an auto include in a lot of rogue decks.
Yeah, and I find that 1-cost spells tend to be pretty good.
Yeah.
For their cost. So yeah, I think this will be a good card.
And more relevant, right? Because a lot of 1-cost spells are like some kind of damage, as opposed to if you're getting 2 random spells and one of them is like resurrect 2 beasts that died this turn for 7 or 8 mana, you can't necessarily use that as a rogue, but you're more likely to be able to play 1-cost spells from other classes.
Yep.
Moving on to Paladin.
Life-saving aura. At the end of your turn, get a 1-cost sunscreen that gives +1/+2, lasts 3 turns. So this is an aura effect. So you play this card, you don't get the sunscreen right away. You get it at the end of your turn, so you can play it your following turn. Yeah, I like it. I mean, if you play this on turn 1, turn 2 you play a 1-cost minion, give it +1/+2 with the sunscreen on it. You could definitely get some early stats pretty quickly out on the board.
And it'll help with the extra health, make your minions that gain stats off of currently played auras stickier on board. So that was a sentence. 1 mana holy spell, Divine Brew. Give a character Divine Shield. If it already had one, give it +1 attack this turn. 3 drinks left.
Another drink card. Just puts on a Divine Shield, which is always usually pretty pesky to deal with for your opponent. And it only costs one mana. I think there's a lot of value here. I like it.
And I like the versatility of it, because if a minion already has Divine Shield, it feels bad having this in your hand. But the fact that you can also use it to give a existing Divine Shield minion 1 attack is very versatile.
Yeah, I like it.
3 mana 3/3 Service Ace. After this minion gains attack, reduce the cost of the highest cost card in your hand by 1.
Oh, okay. So I guess this is an ongoing effect. It's not a battle cry. So once, in theory, you could cast a Divine Brew on this, give it Divine Shield, and then cast another Divine Brew on it, and then that'll essentially reduce a card in your hand by 1.
Well, and if you have this out with Crusader's Aura, then you're getting a free mana cheat every time you attack. So
yeah, and it's targetable, so it goes to your highest cost card in hand. So it's a way of possibly cheating out a very expensive card a little earlier in the game.
10 mana Sea Shanty. Summon 3 5/5 pirates. Costs 1 less for each spell you cast on characters this game.
So this will go really well with the Divine Brew and the sunscreens that you get from the Life Saving Aura. So you spend some mana on those, and all of a sudden, Sea Shanty is a 0 mana card.
Four mana, 3/4, Grillmaster. Battle Cry, draw your lowest cost card. Death Rattle, draw your highest cost card.
So this is a 4 mana, draw 2 with a body. Again, some of the Arcane Intellect is getting power crept again. So that's 3 mana without a body. This is draw 2 with a body. Yeah, it's a good card.
And it's decent stats.
Yep.
I think that'll see play.
I
4
agree.
mana, 2/7, Lifeguard. Taunt, Battle Cry. The next spell you cast has Lifesteal.
I wonder how this would work with like say Divine Brew. So if you give someone a Divine Shield and then it also gets Lifesteal on top of that, if that's the case, you could play Lifeguard on turn 5, cast 1 Divine Brew on it, and all of a sudden your Lifeguard is Taunt, Lifesteal, Divine Shield.
Is that how that reads? Or is it like if you do directed damage, then you also heal from it?
I don't know.
We'll have to see how that plays out.
Yeah, it could go either way. I'm not too sure how to read that card.
6 mana Holy Spell, Power Spike. Deal 4 damage, give a random friendly minion 4/4.
I like this card. Yeah, so you can play this at the start of your turn. Whatever minion is on board gets +4/+4. You deal 4 damage to. Oh, it could go face as well, right?
Yeah, it's basically like Blessing of Kings plus damage.
Yep. Yeah, I like it. And it's a holy spell too, so it's got the spell school on it, attached to it. And if we go to your trusty board here again, what class has access to Paladin cards? It doesn't say on the screen. Is it Mage? I think Mage has that. Yeah, Mage has access
must
to
be
Paladin
Mage.
cards.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, you can play this in a Mage deck too.
Yep.
So Sandcastle. I like the
oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said it. I was reading that Sank Azel.
5 mana, 3/8 with Rush. After this attacks, turn into a location. So the way I read that is it attacks once. If it survives, it turns into a location. I don't think it'll turn back, though. I think it just becomes a location after that.
And here is the location that Sandcastle turns into. It's 5/8. Give a friendly minion +3 attack and rush. Turn back into a minion.
Oh, so this could potentially rush twice in a turn, then.
This has strong warrior vibes for me, because remember, wasn't there like the warrior weapon that became a minion and then it became a weapon again?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So interesting. Changing back and forth between a minion and a location.
I wonder if this, if the charges on the location relate to the health on the minion.
I would think so. Because
So
once you lose a durability, then this would become 7 health, right?
Yeah.
Or I wonder when this takes damage as a minion, if it also reduces the durability of the location.
I think maybe it might. And that kind of makes sense that it would, because that's a lot of durability for a location.
It's a lot of durability for a location. 3 mana, 3/2 Volleyball. After your hero attacks, get a 1-cost sunscreen that gives 1/2.
So this, for me, would have to compete with the current weapon in Standard, the lifesteal buff all minions in your hand by
The
one.
prismatic paintbrush.
Yeah, so I don't think this will see play because it's basically competing for that spot with that other weapon. I think the other weapon still beats this out.
Yeah, because the paintbrush is buffing all minions in your hand, and this is only giving 1/2 to 1 minion. So, and you have to play it. It's not just
and it costs
granting
mana.
it.
Yeah.
So
it's 3 mana for the weapon plus the 1 mana for the sunscreen.
Yeah.
So that's four mana. The other weapon already costs 4 mana. I think the other weapon wins out.
I agree.
Next up, we got Sunsapper Linessa. This is the Rogue Tourist, so this gives Paladin access to Rogue cards. And the effect on this card here, your spells that cost 2 or less cast twice. So for, say, Divine Brew, the Life-Saving Aura, the Sunscreens, anything that's 2 or less, so all your 1 mana spells, they cast twice. This has a lot of value with the Sunscreens, I think, because say you play Linessa on turn 6, you cast 1 Sunscreen on her, she becomes a 4/10.
Yeah, that's a lot of value.
Yeah.
And then since she's stickier, she stays around longer, and then you have this aura longer.
Yeah, I like it. It's a tourist, so it'll be an auto include, and then it's got some good value on top of that.
Moving on to Mage. 3 mana, 3/3 Marooned Archmage. Your first spell each turn costs 2 less.
I like it. It's a bit of mana cheat. You play this on 3, and if you have any spells in hand that cost 2 or less, all of a sudden they become 0 and can be played on that same turn. And it's not a battle cry; it's an ongoing effect. So this will be continuous. And again, the Mage class has access to Paladin cards, so you could play this on 3 in combination with, say, a Sunscreen, and all of a sudden this is a turn 3 4/5.
And historically, we've seen that mini Archmages have had a lot of success in Mage. So yeah, I think this will have some play, and it's 1 health more than the previous mini Archmage that we had. What was her name? Sorcerer's Apprentice. So very on theme with the class. 3 mana, 3 durability location, Tide Pools. Discover a spell that costs 3 or less. After you cast a spell, reopen this.
Yeah, locations tend to be very strong, especially with this set because they have this added effect where if you do something after this is closed, you can reopen it and play it on the same turn. So this could fit well with your Archmage.
Yep.
You play the location on 3. On turn 4, you play the Archmage. You get essentially a free spell on top of that. The free spell reopens it. So there's a lot of value that can happen in one turn with this spell school or with this location. Seabreeze Chalice. Deal 2 damage randomly split amongst all enemies. 3 drinks left. So this is another one of the drink cards. It has 3 uses. I don't think this will see play because currently, right now, Mage has that 2 mana spell that does 3 damage randomly and then another 3 damage if you have no minions. And I think that's a lot more value than this would. So it would have to compete with that card to see play in Standard for me.
The only argument that I can see for it is it's a different spell school than that card, and it only costs 1 for 3 damage spells.
Oh, yes.
1 mana, go with the flow. Choose a minion. If it's an enemy, freeze it. If it's friendly, give it spell damage +1.
This is an interesting card. It's got some flexibility because it has 2 different effects crammed into 1 depending on where you're targeting it. The spell damage +1 could be very handy for some late game combos for Mage. It'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. I think it'll be a good card.
I think people will pick this off of discovers in late game. I don't know necessarily if this is going to be included in decks. 4 mana, 2/5, Rayla Sand Sculptor, Paladin Tourist. After you cast a spell, summon a random 2-cost minion and give it Divine Shields.
I love the flavor of this with the Divine Shields casting because it kind of has that Paladin flavor to it. Yeah, this could be a pretty good card to build a board rather quickly. It doesn't have any mana requirements on the spells you cast. So you could cast a 1 mana spell and get a 2-cost minion on top of it, give it Divine Shield. There could be a lot of value for this. I like it.
And it synergizes well with the Paladin card that gives a Divine Shield minion plus attack.
Yep. Three mana, Rising Waves, deal 2 damage to all minions. If none die, deal 2 more. So this affects your minions as well as the enemy minions. It's essentially a cheap board clear. I don't think you hard run this in your deck because it also kills your own minions, but it'd be a pretty good discover option in my opinion if you're looking for some cheap board clears.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think that you would want to include this in a mage deck because a lot of mage minions are minions that you either generate off of your weapon or that have 3 or 4 health. So it would be one of those like tech picks that you choose later on situationally.
Okay, next up, we got Under the Sea. Draw a different spell, summon a random minion of that spell's cost. So you can't draw another copy of Under the Sea. It would have to be something else. So you're hoping to draw a very high mana cost spell from this, which we're about to find out a high cost spell coming up. But yeah, it's card draw. It generates a minion. There's some value here, but it is quite expensive. Like 6 mana, essentially do nothing except for draw 1 card. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out.
There are so many good inexpensive mage spells. It feels bad taking those out of your deck just to be able to summon 1 high value minion. Like if you were to only, like if we had big spell mage, for example, and we only had like the pyro spell and other large spells, yeah, you're going to get something really valuable off of this, but is that worth the trade-off of not including all of the really good low mana spells?
Yeah, this one probably doesn't make the cut.
8 mana frost spell Tsunami. Summon 3 3/6 water elementals that freeze. They attack random enemies.
This seems very expensive to me. It can go face, so if your opponent has an empty board, all 3 elementals will attack the enemy hero and freeze it. Yeah, this seems really expensive for the cost. Like you think of other 8 mana spells, like Twisting Nether is 8 mana. I would not put this in the same class as something like Twisting Nether.
Yeah, I agree. It feels expensive, and it's not. I mean, 9 damage, and it's not clearing. It's only stalling.
Yeah.
5 mana, 5/6 beast, Surfalapod, Battle Cry. The next spell you draw is cast when drawn.
This feels really expensive for what it is. This could be like the next spell you cast could be like a 1 mana spell that really doesn't do much of anything, and this in and of itself, it's a 5 mana 5/6 with no added effect on top of that. I don't think this one makes the cut.
The only argument I can see for this, again, is if we see a resurgence of big spell mage. Four mana, 4/4, King Tide, Battle Cry. Both players' spells cost 5 until the end of your next turn.
This for me is 4 mana. Your opponent will murder you on their next turn.
Yeah. I think the prospect of your opponent playing something that only costs 5 the next turn is way worse than getting to play something for less on yours.
Yep. So someone is dying in their next turn.
What were you going to say about Surfalapod?
Surfalapod? Yeah, it doesn't really much have much of an effect. Again, like what you said, there's so many good cheap spells in Mage. There's not really much value in playing this and then auto casting a 1-mana whatever. It's there's not a lot of value there. I don't think it makes the cut.
Yeah, I think like if you're doing a big spell mage and you have spells like Tsunami or Under the Sea, they could be valuable, but I agree. In a regular mage deck that includes all spell costs, it seems clunky. Finally, moving on to neutral cards. I have a neutral legendary 6-mana 2/10 elemental Incendious. At the end of your turn, upgrade your eruptions, battle cry, shuffle 5 eruptions in your deck. Related card is Eruption, which is a 1-mana fire spell. Cast when drawn, deal 1 damage to all enemies.
This card would go well with what's that other elemental that splits, that draws and splits an elemental into 2?
Mm-hmm.
Because you could play 2 3-mana versions of this and shuffle 10 eruptions into your deck and have those eruptions upgrade twice. So instead of dealing 2 damage, they'll be dealing 3 damage, provided the 2 Incendii stay on the board.
Incendii. It's funny that this is a neutral card because this has strong like Demon Hunter vibes to me.
Mm-hmm.
Just the AoE when all enemies effect just feels very Demon Hunter-ish.
Yep. I think you'll see this being played in an elemental shaman deck, because elemental shaman, or is it shaman that's at elementals right now? Yeah. It's a pretty decent deck as it is right now. If you give it a little bit more support, like something like this with a bit of reach, I think it'll see some value there.
Can you imagine this in Wild with Shudderwalk?
Shuffle 1 million eruptions into your deck.
I wonder how many turns those games will go to. 1 mana, 1/2, all classes or all types. Adaptive Amalgam. This has all minion types. Death Rattle. Shuffle this into your deck. It keeps any enchantments.
This is probably one of the best cards in the set for me. This would fit really well into a lot of decks. I can think of Paladin off the top of my head. If you give this a couple of sunscreens, then all of a sudden it becomes, instead of a 1/2, it's a 2/4. When it dies, gets shuffled back in. You could put some more enchantments on it, and it'll just keep going. I think there's a lot of value in this card. I like it.
It's like the Librams but they stay stuck when you shuffle.
Yep.
It's kind of terrifying.
I like it. Sleepy Resident. 4 mana 3/5 with taunt, death rattle, all other minions fall asleep. I don't think this one sees play. I don't think it makes the cut in many decks. Maybe a warrior deck, but I doubt it.
And what does fall asleep mean? Do we think that means go dormant for a certain number of turns? Do we think?
Yeah, I would suspect that means it goes dormant.
I wonder how long they'll be dormant, or if you'll have to do something to wake them up.
I don't know. Yeah, I wish they had a bit more of a description on the card, but
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't seem proactive. Like you don't want to be putting your own minions to sleep, so I don't think this card makes the cut. Wavepool Thrasher. Battlecry, give all other minions -1 mana, -1. Death Rattle, give all other minions +1/+1. It's got some interesting flavor to it. I'm not too sure how to rank this card. I don't think it'll see play because this could This could go sideways fast if your opponent plays around it and kills it and gives its own side of the board +1/+1. Yeah, I don't think it makes the cut.
This seems highly situational. Like people might start tucking it in if we see a lot of the 1 mana pirates from, was that Demon Hunter? That summons all the pirates? Because if you're giving all other minions -1/-1, you're essentially killing their board and not having to worry about your opponent's minions getting buffed with a death rattle. But other than that, it seems interesting.
Yeah.
Three mana 2/1 undead, Terrible Chef. Battlecry, summon a 0/2 Nerubian egg. Death rattle, destroy it.
Oh, so is this the Nerubian that summons the 4/4 off the
I believe so, yes. There it is. Old Faithful. 4 mana 4/4 Nerubian.
This is I kind of like this card. I think there's some value to it. It's a 3 mana 4/4 kind of sort of. Yeah, I like it. I think and it's an undead as well, so there's that going forward as well. I like it. I think this will see play in some decks.
What's nice is that you can play an egg, and if someone's not playing AoE or you aren't able to buff it to attack with it, it can just sit there for a really long time. So the fact that you can destroy this card, and that in turn destroys the egg, guarantees you the 4/4.
Yep.
4 mana 3/5 pirate, Resort Valet. Battlecry, discover a card from the newest expansion.
Oh, that's kind of an interesting effect. So it doesn't necessarily say Perils of Paradise. So whatever the next expansion comes in, it'll be that expansion. That's interesting.
And I wonder if it's neutral and it doesn't say from your class. So I wonder if you're just going to be able to discover any card.
Yeah, I like this. I think it's got some value to it. Yeah, I think this will see play.
3 mana 3/3 Cryopractor. Battlecry, give a minion 3/3 and freeze it.
Oh, I like this card. You can give it to your own minion. So say you already have a minion on board, you can attack with that minion. After you attack with it, you freeze it, and then by the time your next turn, it would be your next turn it unfreezes, I think.
I think it would freeze it right away.
Or is it future? Yeah.
So
would it unfreeze your next turn, or would you have to wait an additional turn? How does that work when you get frozen on your own turn? I think if it unfreezes the following turn, I think it's good. But if you have to wait that additional turn, then maybe not so much.
That's a great question, but it would be good for buffing taunts.
Yeah.
Seven mana 4/20 beast, Beach Whale, taunt, Battlecry, deal 10 damage to this minion.
Wow,
this feels like a priest card. This does not feel neutral. This feels like hyper control.
Yeah. And if there's a way to cheat this out without having the Battlecry activate, then you have a 4/20 on board.
Like the sandwich weapon that we saw for Warrior.
Yeah, outside of that, like spending 7 mana to get essentially a 4/10 on board, that seems kind of slow to me. But if you have a way of cheating this out, then
or of healing it,
or healing it, yep. Next up, we got Hosen Roughhouser. When another friendly pirate attacks, give it +1/+1/+1. And this is also a pirate. So this is an active effect. For me, this feels like it would fit pretty well in the Demon Hunter class because it has all those little 1/1 pirates that have charge. So you play this on the same turn that you generate a lot of those little 1/1s. All of a sudden, they become 2/2s and they can go face. I think this feels like a Demon Hunter card for me.
It does. 2 mana, 1/4 pirate, Coconut Cannoneer. After an adjacent minion attacks, deal 1 damage to a random enemy.
I like the flavor behind this. I don't think it sees play though.
Yeah, the fact that it's 1 damage and it's to a random enemy, it seems like we've seen a lot of cards that are slightly better.
Yeah.
1 mana, 2/1 Naga, Tide Pool Pupil. Battlecry. If you've cast 3 spells while holding this, discover one of them.
I like this card. This is a way of generating some extra value. It doesn't cost a whole lot. It's just 1 mana. So if you are playing a deck with a lot of spells, you have this sit in hand. You get to replay one of those 3 spells that you cast. I think there's some value there. I think we might see this card see some play.
Yep. I feel like people would have loved this during Naga Mage era.
Oh goodness, I would have hated this in Naga Mage era.
Maybe we'll see that in Wild. 7 mana, 5/8, Snooze and Zookeeper. Battlecry. Summon an 8/8 beast for your opponent. It attacks all of their minions.
Seems very situational for me. It could be a decent board clear depending on what the board situation is for the opponent's side of the board. But again, like very situational. You would never play this if your opponent has an empty board.
Mm-hmm. Well, or very situational. Yeah, I can see this as like a late game, hoping that Yogg is like the only thing on the board, or that Amanthul is the only thing on their board. Other than that, it feels kind of expensive.
Yep.
3 mana, 2/4 pirate, Sailboat Captain. Battlecry. Give a friendly pirate Wind Fury.
Oh goodness, this feels like another Demon Hunter card.
Yeah.
You combine this with the Hose and Roughhouser, all of a sudden you have those little 1/1 pirates with charge turn into 2/2s, and then have Wind Fury, and then they get turn into 3/3s.
Mm-hmm. I can get out of hand right quick.
Yep. Lamplighter, Battlecry, deal 1 damage, improved by each turn in a row you've played an elemental. So probably goes into like an elemental shaman deck more than anything. Yeah, and this can snowball pretty quickly if you keep playing elementals on every turn. Like by turn 10, this is a 3 mana deal 10, and it can go face.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
3 mana, 3/3, Overplanner. Battlecry. Discover 3 cards in your deck to put on top in that order.
This might go well with, what was that one card we reviewed that sets the cost of your top card in your deck to 1?
Yeah.
This is a way of kind of tutoring and planning out which card gets that reduction. But it seems kind of clunky at the same time. It doesn't actually draw anything. It's just essentially a 3 mana 3/3 reshuffle your deck. It very very situational. I think it'd be something that you might want to discover, but I don't think you hard run this in the deck.
6 mana, 6/6 pirate, Dread Deserter. Has charge if this didn't start in your deck.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know how you would play around that. Like, it's discoverable, but it's a neutral card, so it's not can't be discovered from another class. If there's an easy way to discover this, there might see some value there because it's a 6 mana, 6 damage face. But yeah, I don't know how you would need to have some support for this card in order for it to be effective.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what cards let us discover minions that are neutrals, because usually discovers or like minions put into your hand are from another class.
There's the priest card with the fortunes. So if you got this off of your fortunes, those would essentially not be.
What
From
was the
your
fortune?
deck.
Remind me.
It's the priest legendary. It was where is it here? Narain Soothe Fancy Battlecry. Get 2 fortunes that are copies of the top card in your deck. So those fortunes.
Oh. So the fortune, even though the minion started in your deck, the fortune didn't start in your deck.
Correct. Yeah. So that's one way to get this out and give it charge.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems kind of clunky though. Like you'd have to have a certain set of circumstances in order for this to get charged. If there's an easy way to do that in future sets, maybe that's a good option. But I don't see this making the cut right as it is right now.
3 mana, 3/4 pirate, concierge. Your cards from another class cost 1 less.
So this is an active effect, not a battle cry. This feels like a rogue card to me.
It does. And I think there was also a mage minion at one point that discounted cards that didn't start in your deck or something like that. So yeah, feels like rogue or mage card.
Yep. Bloodsail Recruiter, 2 mana, 4/1 pirate, battlecry, discover a pirate. This feels like another rogue card to me. It even looks like a rogue card.
It does. Wait. Hold up. That's how you can discover the Dread Deserter. Because this is a pirate.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
I knew there'd be a way. They won't leave us hanging. 5 mana, 4/7 Murloc, Bayfin Bodybuilder. After a minion is summoned for your opponent during your turn, silence and destroy it. So this is a way of putting out your 1 mana 3/3 fish without summoning the 2/1. But would you want to do it this late in the game? Because you have to have 6 mana.
Very true. It seems again situational to me. If you have a way of like drop this would go well with Dirty Rat.
Ooh, that's true.
So play this card, play a Dirty Rat. It'll summon a card for your opponent, and then it gets silenced and destroyed.
That's disgusting.
Yep.
I kind of like that. I can see a lot of priests running this.
Yep. I kind of like it.
5 mana, 5/5 Scrapbooking Student. Battlecry, summon a copy of a friendly location.
This is an interesting card. There'd have to be a lot of value from that location itself, because this is essentially a 5 mana, 5/5 do nothing on top of that.
Yeah.
XB931 Housekeeper. After you use the location, gain 3 armor. This maybe an Odin warrior kind of deck. Generate some armor, generate some attack. Feels kind of clunky though to me.
Yeah, because if you're having to make sure that this is on board while your location is active, yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like the Quillbore costs less and does more. Because Quillbore gives you extra armor every time you gain armor. This is dependent on using the location, which probably only have 1 of out, so a little slow.
Next up, we have Seaside Giant. 10 mana, 8/8, costs 2 less for each time you've used the location this game. So if you're playing a deck that has lots of use out of locations, this could become 0 mana rather quickly. Just needs to use, I believe, 5 times. Yeah, 5 times 2 is 10. So 5 location procs, and this is a 0 mana 8/8. There's could be valuable there, depending on how quickly you can get it out.
This feels like a Shaman card to me.
Yeah, it does.
4 mana, 4/5 Grifta Trusted Vendor. Battlecry, discover an amazing amulet to give to both players. The enemies is a phony version. And related cards are Amulet of Passion. Take control of an enemy minion until the end of your turn. It has 1 attack this turn. Amulet of Passions. Wait, what?
So
take control of an enemy minion until... Oh! That's the fake one.
Yeah, you got a real one and a fake one. The fake one is kind of like a crappy version of the real one.
So I thought the fake one was just gonna not do anything, but they actually do get something for it.
Yeah.
Amulet of Tracking. Get 3 random legendary cards, transform them into commons. Amulet of Tracking. Get 3 random legendary cards. Okay, so this is the phony that transforms them into commons. Amulet of Critters. Summon a random 4-cost minion and give it taunt. It can't attack versus it can attack. Amulet of Warding. Deal 6 damage to a minion versus being able to deal 6 damage anywhere. Amulet of Energy. Restore 12 health to your hero, then take 6 damage versus not having to take 6 damage. Amulet of Mobility. Draw 3 cards, discard 2 of them versus not having to discard any. Amulet of Strides. Reduce the cost of all cards in your hand by 1, except for spells versus including spells.
Yeah, all these amulets seem pretty good, and the ones that you get for, or the ones that you give to your opponent are not necessarily backbreaking. They're I don't think your opponent would ever want to play the fake version. Yeah, this could generate some definite value for you. I like it.
I mean, some of the fake amulets aren't terrible. Even if you get 3 random commons, that's just more like if you're playing like Necrotic Explosion and you're just trying to generate more corpses, it's not necessarily a bad thing. So
yeah,
the fakes don't seem too terrible. So I don't know if it's worth giving your opponent more resources.
Yeah. Package Dealer. After you draw a card, 50% chance to draw another. That's an active effect. So I suppose this would also include when you draw a card at the start of your turn. So if this thing stays on the board, you could potentially draw 2 cards at the start of the turn. Still feels slow to me. It's got no other effect beyond that. So I don't see this card seeing a lot of play.
Yeah. And especially if your opponent is possibly playing Glide, you would never want to put this down.
Very true.
4 mana, 1/8 Mech Beast Octomasseuse. Deals octuple damage to minions. Whew.
So if this minion has 1 attack, but if it attacks a minion, it essentially has 8 attack.
But only one going face.
And only one going face.
Which is the place.
It is very true. But yeah, so essentially like a 4 mana 8/8 if you're just using it to attack other minions, which is not bad, but yeah, only 1 attack going face feels kind of bad.
And only 1 attack if it's being attacked into. So yeah, I don't know. If it's buffed, that could be ridiculous.
Well, no, it's an active aura, so if an opposing minion attacks it, it'll deal 8 damage to that minion.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, that's how I read it. But
okay, yeah, no, I can see that. I can see that take. Yeah, because they're still receiving damage even if they're the attacker. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
3 mana, 2/3 Mixologist. Battlecry. Craft a custom 1-cost potion. Possible potions are Netherbloom, summon a 2/2 demon, Shadow Oil, add a random demon to your hand, King's Blood, draw a card, Goldthorn, give your minions +2 health, Ice Cap, freeze a random enemy minion, Fellbloom, deal 2 damage to all minions, Stone Scale Oil, gain 4 armor, Heart of Fire, deal 3 damage, Ichor of Undeath, summon a friendly minion that died this game. Cabal Demon, 2/2 demon. Mixologist Special. So because it says craft, this feels a lot like potions or concoctions, I think they call them. So you probably get to choose 2 of these, right?
Yeah, that's how I read it too. which for 1 mana, mana seems really good. Like there's a lot of value there. Yeah, I think this card sees play. I think it's a pretty good card. So next up we have Carrion Grub, Battlecry, get a 1-cost suitcase. Package the top 2 cards of your deck into it. So is this kind of a way of drawing 2 cards?
Yeah, it seems like a draw 2 cards and then spend 1 mana to unpack them.
Okay.
That's
so
worth
it's a 4
it.
mana, 4 mana 5/4 on the board, which is pretty decent stats, and then you spend 1 more mana to basically get back the 2 cards that you drew. So 4 mana 5/4, and then like a 1 mana draw 2 essentially.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty decent.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, I like it.
3 mana 3/3 Undead Pirate, Bumbling Bellhop. Taunt, Battlecry. If you're holding a spell that costs 5 or more, summon a copy of this.
Oh, I don't know. Where would you see it? Where would you play this card? What kind of class? You'd have to have some pretty high cost spells.
Yeah, even if you're playing something like Big Spell Mage, what's the probability that you have one of those in your hand already and you draw this?
Yeah, you'd have to hit this condition and that condition, and
It feels
in order for it
clunky.
to, yeah.
It feels rewarding but clunky. 3 mana 2/5 Pirate, Customs Enforcer. Enemy cards that didn't start in their deck cost 2 more. Ooh.
And this is an active
very
aura.
anti-rogue.
Yep.
I don't like
And you
it.
play this against rogue, and they have to spend mana on their cards.
And a lot of the removal that they're going to generate is from other classes, so it's going to be more expensive to remove this.
Yeah.
Ouch. It still feels very techy though. Like you have to be queuing into a lot of rogue to throw this into your deck.
Yeah. Otherwise, you probably don't see much play out of it.
3 mana 3/3 dragon, Gorgon Zormu. Continuing the cheese theme. Battlecry.
Such a cheesy name.
Get a 2-cost cheese that summons 3 1-cost minions. It upgrades each turn.
I wonder how it upgrades. Do you get like summons an additional minion?
Summon 3 random 1-cost minions, or does it summon 2-cost like minions?
Or 3 random 2-cost minions, yeah.
Yeah, or 3-cost minions or 4-cost minions. But again, like the amount of cards in Hearthstone right now that have poor stats for their mana cost because they have a battle cry or something. And if you're summoning them, you don't get that battle cry. This might actually be better earlier on just to get bodies on board. Yep. This feels like a Paladin card to me. This feels like something you would like auto include in a buff Paladin deck.
Yeah.
Because you play this and then you play, Resistance Aura, and you just have a bunch of inexpensive bodies that you can get on board to buff when they attack.
Mm-hmm. Or conversely, if you say hold it in your hand for 10 turns, maybe it summons 3 random 10 mana.
Which could be good or meh.
Could be good. Or could be meh.
Yeah, but it is versatile in that way.
Yeah, and it's only 2 mana.
Or if you wait until turn 9, could you possibly get a Yogg? Are they going to include legendaries?
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Or is this going to be commons, epics, and rares? Rare.
Yeah, it's a hard one to read off the bat, but it's
yeah.
I do like the flavor.
I do too. You like the flavor? I see what you did there. Oh, bad. 2 mana 2/2 pirate, travel agent, Battlecry, discover a location from any class.
Yeah, discover effects are always pretty valuable. It keeps generating cards for you to play. Locations are typically pretty good, and it's a 2 mana 2/2. I think this card will see play. Weapons Attendant, Battlecry. If you control another pirate, equip a random weapon from your deck. This is a pretty expensive card, but it's a way, I suppose it's a way if you have a really expensive weapon to try and cheat it out a little bit. But it seems very situational to me.
And you're not cheating it out that early because you're having to wait till, turn 6 or later to play it. So
yeah. Plus, you have to have another pirate on board when you play this card too, right?
And you have to make sure that you haven't drawn all of your weapons before you draw this. I don't know.
Yep. Seems clunky.
Yeah.
There's the other card, the other minion that was it weapons, where it's like a 2-mana or a 3-mana 1/2 or 2-mana 1/2 that draws a weapon for you. That seems way better than this.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about the one that's not from the set that's already out, the instrument tech?
Yeah. Instrument tech, that's the one.
Yeah, I think that's better also. You can play it earlier. 2-mana, 2/2 Murloc Pirate, Drink Server. Death Rattle, get a random drink spell. It has 3 uses. So are these all the drink spells that we've seen from other classes?
Yep.
Yeah, it looks like it. Nightshade Tea, Malted Magma.
And all those drinks seem pretty good. So
yeah.
I think, I think this will be a good card. It gets you that little extra value. Yeah, I think this will see play.
5-mana, 0/5 AFK. At the end of your turn, give all other friendly minions that didn't attack 2/2.
I don't think this sees play at all, because it rewards you for not attacking, and that's not really the point of Hearthstone. The point of Hearthstone is to kill your opponent. Unless
you're, putting this down on a turn when you're also playing a lot of minions that don't have charge or rush.
Yeah, very true.
That's like the only situation where this would be good. But it is on theme for AFK. It's like very true to her nature.
If the buff happened to her as well, I think that'd be a much better card.
Oh yeah, all other friendly minions, so not including AFK.
Yep.
And then the one card that we all already know about but love. 7-mana, 6/6 Pirate, Marin the Manager. Battlecry, choose a fantastic treasure, shuffle the other 3 into your deck. For those of you who haven't played him yet, the treasures are Zerog's Crown, discover a legendary minion, summon 2 copies of it. Toland's Goblet, draw a card, fill your hand with copies of it. Wondrous Wand, draw 3 cards, reduce their cost to 0, or Golden Kobold, 3-mana, 6/6 Taunt, Battlecry, replace your hand with legendary minions.
Yeah, this card is an amazing card, especially for a free card for Hearthstone's giving us. It's basically in every deck on ladder right now.
Yeah.
That's a great card.
I think just like being able to play it for the Wondrous Wand in itself, even if you don't have a use for Toland's Goblet or Golden Kobold, the Wondrous Wand and Zerog's Crown are well worth running this minion in your deck.
Yep.
Overall thoughts? I know we just went through 145 cards, but are there any standouts that you feel are absolutely wonderful, absolutely terrible, something you're looking forward to playing?
Well, I do enjoy my
man, you capping! Oh, clean. Oh, you capping! Drip, splash, water, drip, splash, drip, water, splash, drip, water.
Some value in that. All in all, I think this is probably one of the better sets we've seen coming forward. It'll be interesting to see how the Druid cards play into Warrior decks, because now Warrior has access to ramp and some of the other really powerful Druid cards that we saw in this set. I'm really looking forward to the 23rd.
I am as well. I think it's a very exciting expansion. We have the new tourist mechanic, which we've never had before. We've had dual class cards before, and we've had cards that can be used by 3 different classes before during, was that Scholomance or in a previous set? But we haven't had something where a certain class is touring a different class and can use cards from that set. I find that really interesting. And I think we have a couple really spicy cards. I'm just going to return for a moment to Ham the Hungry. I feel like we haven't had a card that will be this hated since Mutinous, like you mentioned. So it'll be interesting to see what people say on Reddit and in chat about this card. But I think it's going to be one of those things where you love to play it, you hate having it played against you. People are going to probably grumble and ask for a nerf. So we'll see what happens with that. How long it lasts in its current form. I think Caress Cabaret Star is one of the most versatile cards we've seen in a while. People love being able to play different spell schools and change the effect on Nagas that we've had in the past. So I think she'll see a lot of play. And of course, everyone loves Marin the Manager. We've already seen a lot of that already. And I think we'll continue to see a lot of Marin in decks going forward.
One card I'm looking forward to trying is Eliza Goreblade, the Death Knight legendary that gives for the rest of the game your minions have +1 attack. So every minion you summon from there on out has at least +1 attack. Or if you're able to get this Death Rattle to go off more than once, then instantly every minion you buff is like +2 attack, +3 attack, including your hero power for Death Knight too. Every time you summon one of those ghouls with your hero power, it's no longer a 1 attack ghoul, it's a 2 attack, 3 attack, depending on how much you can buff this up.
Yeah, it really feels like a Battlegrounds card, which is interesting. I wonder if that's what inspired it, because it has the mechanic of one of the undeads that we know and love from Battlegrounds. So yeah, that will be a very exciting card to play as well. Well, thank you so much, Toucher, for joining us today to go over all of the Perils in Paradise cards. Thank you to everyone who came to watch our discussion on all the cards. I hope you're excited about the expansion coming out. And I will see everyone tomorrow. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Bye, everyone, and thank you for hosting.